Are you still doubting the validity of gangstalking and targeting of individuals? Today we provide empirical evidence of the likelihood of its existence and how this heinous act of social engineering can and does proliferate. Stanley Milgram was an influential social psychologist known for his controversial and groundbreaking research on obedience to authority. His most famous experiment, known as the Milgram Experiment, aimed to understand how ordinary people could commit acts that went against their moral principles under the influence of authority figures. Milgram's experiment. In the 1960s, Milgram conducted a series of experiments at Yale University. The study involved a teacher, the participant, who was instructed to administer increasingly strong electric shocks to a learner, a confederate, not a real participant, whenever the learner answered questions incorrectly. The shocks were not real, but the teacher did not know that. As the voltage increased, the learner pretended to be in pain, and some even expressed distress and asked to stop the experiment. Key findings. Milgram's research showed that a surprisingly high percentage of participants, about 65 to 70%, were willing to administer severe shocks, even when they believed it could cause extreme harm, simply because an authority figure, the experimenter, instructed them to do so. This raised significant ethical concerns about the psychological well-being of the participants and the potential harmful effects of the study. This experiment validates the claim of the devastating effects of gangstalking and targeting individuals and the pain it inflicts on their psychological, emotional and physical well-being. Factors influencing obedience. Milgram identified several factors that influenced obedience. Proximity to authority, the physical distance between the participant and the authority figure affected the level of obedience. When the experimenter was in the same room as the participant, obedience was higher. This would also coincide with the proximity of data on their cell phones or information passed along to them by supposedly trusted sources. Legitimacy of authority, participants were more likely to obey if the authority figure was perceived as legitimate and had an official role. Again, here we go back to the theory of trusted sources. As the proliferation of social media and electronic device reliance soars as a trusted source for information, ordinary citizenry find themselves believing what they see and acting on that versus seeking out credible sources for information. Social support. If other people refused to obey or dissented, the participant was more likely to resist the experimenter's orders. We call this social chaining. Not wanting to break the chain of consent for fear of being separated from the source or possible isolation for non-participation. Personal responsibility. Participants were more likely to comply when they felt less personally responsible for the consequences of their actions. Milgram's research had a profound impact on social psychology and raised awareness of the potential dangers of blind obedience to authority or the perceived credible source without seeking viable resources and data for oneself before acting on choices based on misinformation. It shed light on the complexities of human behavior and how situational factors can influence moral decision-making. The study remains a significant example of the ethical challenges in psychological research and the need for responsible and thoughtful study design. Although this psychologist does not personally advocate for, nor have they provided any data in support of the phenomena known as gangstalking and targeting individuals, they passed away several years ago. Clearly their psychological concepts support the hypothesis regarding the viability of gangstalking and targeting individuals as a true and real experience by hundreds of thousands of people across the globe. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.